test on it because I was a police trainer too. I taught the advanced interviewing module. I was a forensic hypnotist. I still am technically, work on major crimes, robberies, 3 murder
Wow.
cases, poisoning, sex offenses. We caught a guy in a sex offense. And using hypnosis by creating a protocol that cannot cause paramnesia, false memory syndrome. And that's always the problem. If you can use a protocol that cannot create false memories, then hypnosis can be very powerful in court cases.
So can you maybe share your techniques, how you
The method?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. There was a case north of Toronto many years ago, and it was a woman. We're going to call her Louise because that was her name. And she has given me permission to use her name. And she was a woman who worked at a women's shelter, and where they dealt with, helped battered and abused women get out of bad relationships. So there were 2 beds there. And that particular night, there was no one staying at the shelter. So she locked up at 11 p.m. and went to her car in the alleyway. And she didn't know she was being stalked by a psycho. And here's what made it terrifying. She's a little woman. This enormous guy, 6'1", whatever, 6 feet tall, was wearing a dress. He was in drag. So he had a dress on, the exact same fabric she was wearing that day. He had a wig, like her hairstyle. He had facial makeup on. And so obviously he'd been closely tracking her and following her for some time.
Mm-hmm.
And he attempted to rape this woman. And she fought back. And I tell everybody, as a police trainer, I say, fight back immediately, fight for your life right away. Don't wait for a better opportunity, because if you are taken to a secondary crime scene, your chance of escape is almost non-existent. Fight to the death instantly and let him pick somebody else. So she fought back and he fled. And York Regional Police north of Toronto had went over to her and they interviewed her, and they gave her 16 photographs, 4/4s, that came out of the police system, which fits perpetrators who would fit that description of that crime within, I believe it was 30 kilometers, I might be wrong on that, for that kind of crime. Because in order to track and stalk someone, you have to be pretty close. You can't drive, 100 miles every day. And so he'd been clearly stalking her. And so what happened was, she looked at the 16 pictures and said, I don't know. She said he had makeup, a wig. They said, well, can you remember? She said, I can't tell what he looked like. It was dark. He had makeup, he had a wig. I don't know. So they gave up on that. And 5 weeks later, they called me and said, are you willing to work with this woman? She's open to it, to see if she can recall which guy it was. So all of these 16 were people out on parole, people who'd served their time, all of these things. And so we met 1 week after that, so 6 weeks after the crime, at the women's shelter, which is where she felt safest. And they brought in a police videographer, 2 police interviewers, and a female police officer as well, because you have to do everything above board and be seen to be above board as well. We're using hypnosis, right? So they set up the camera, and they set up 2 chairs for her and the interviewer, and I'm off to the side, sort of in the picture, but not really. So my method does not ask the subject anything about the crime ever. Not before the hypnosis, not during, and not after. I never discuss it. And I've never had to go to court for hypnosis, which is the way it should be. If you're doing a good job, you should never have to give testimony in court. So what I'm looking for is evidence that they can corroborate afterwards that this is actually happened. So I begin doing a conversational Ericksonian induction. And she goes into trance very quickly. But unfortunately, so does the detective beside her, who's going to interview her. And the 2 of them are just... So the police videographer was very clever. He moved the camera so the detective was not in the scene. And so I do the hypnosis, and it's all done by metaphor. You're going on a beautiful guided imagery journey. You're walking along a lovely beach. It's clean and fresh, and your feet in the water and in the sand, and you're looking down. And it said, and you find something shiny in the sand. You pick it up, and it's a very old-fashioned skeleton key. And you decide to take it with you. So she does. And now you go up on the sand dunes and you see a house, and it's an old house. But now listen to the framework here, Veronica. It is a very safe, very comfortable, warm house. And you feel very good there. Because I don't know if she had something scary in a house as a kid, an old house. So she goes in, just explore the house. You love looking around, and there's drawers and cupboards for you to explore. And you can, here's the embedded command, find what you need to find. That's it. We let her look around the house. And you'll only come back to the surface when you have found what you need to find. So this is now, awakening is now contingent upon finding the information. So we wait. 3 minutes late, and all I'm saying for 3 minutes is, that's right. That's right. Keep looking around. That's right. Really, occasionally.
Mhm.
So it takes her like 3 minutes. She comes out of trance. It took the detective nearly 9 minutes to come out of trance. And I always
Wow.
joke and say, I don't know what the heck he remembered. So he comes out of hypnosis and she does. And now they do the interview. I don't. And all they said was, take a look at these 16 photographs again and tell me if you can tell who it was. She goes like this. She picks up the sheet of paper and she goes, it was him. That fast, like 2 seconds. And they would, wait a minute, you got to think of it. I don't think about anything. It was him. I know it was him. Okay, so the skeptical police find out where he's currently living, and they show up at his doorstep 6 weeks after the event. And he comes running out of the house in his pajamas and a bathrobe. And he said, I'm so glad you're here. I knew you were going to catch me. The stress has been killing me. I knew you were going to catch me. I need help. They said, we got to read your rights. Read anything you want. Just get me some help. So it turns out this man was producing 15 times too much testosterone. And that was driving this insane sexual urge. And so
Okay.
he underwent chemical castration at the Clark Institute of Psychiatry in Toronto. And I was teaching this at the New York State Troopers Police Academy in New York State. And they were skeptical when I told how it all worked out. And amazingly, a man stood up in the room. I won't say his name because I don't have his permission. But I'll tell you off camera if you like. You can look him up.
Mm.
He was a forensic psychiatrist and an Ontario provincial police man. And he said, I can confirm this. I am the psychiatrist who did the chemical castration in that case. And it was just amazing. I mean, everything just fit in place. We found out he and I were
Mm.
both born the same day, Wednesday, April 29, 1953. And that case dealt with that guy, and the woman gave me permission to tell the story. And it was certainly one of the most interesting.